The word intimacy means inner closeness. That's what it means. It means close on the inside. In fact, let me just read you a definition here. It means depth of relationship, complete mutual awareness, and unhindered access to another person. It means I know you. I know who you are. I have access to your thoughts. I have access to your emotions. I have access to your body. I have access to you. And so intimacy means closeness on the inside, not just on the outside. Now in Genesis chapter 2, when God created marriage, He created man and woman and marriage. This is what God said, "For this cause a man will leave his father and mother and will cleave unto his wife, and they two will become one flesh." And then verse 24 says, verse 25 says, "The man and his wife were both naked and unashamed." Now, in Marriage on the Rock, I talk about the 4 foundational laws of marriage, okay? In this message, I'm going to talk about the 4 essential elements of intimacy. If you're going to have closeness on the inside, if you're going to be able to know each other and have unhindered access, no fear, nothing to hinder your intimacy at all, 4 things have to be present. The first is value. "For this cause a man will leave his mother and his father." Marriage causes us to reprioritize our lives. The Bible says, "For this cause a man will leave the most important thing in his life." Before you get married, the most important relationship you have is with your mother and your father. Okay, and it says, "For this cause you have to leave." And the word leave there doesn't mean abuse, forsake, anything like that. It means let go. It's the word azab. It just means reprioritize. And so literally, a covenant marriage that God puts together, spirit to spirit, is more profound than a blood bond. And what that means is it has to be first. I'm putting the highest value on you. And going back to the law of priority, which is the first law of marriage, marriage has to be first. It has to be before your children. In real terms, it has to be before your job. It has to be before your friends. It has to be before, golf is what almost, ruined our marriage. And I golfed so much, it almost ruined our marriage. And what saved our marriage is I hung up my golf clubs. But what it said to Karen is, you're first. And so intimacy begins with value. Now listen, love is our greatest need. Rejection is our greatest fear. We all fear. When you go back into a person's life, and I've done a lot of counseling for many years, a person's greatest damage is always done through rejection. Whether it was a previous divorce or rejection of a person earlier in your life or whatever, that's because love is our greatest need. So value says something in a relationship which is critical to establish intimacy, and there's nothing more important than you. Except for Jesus Christ, nothing in my life is more important than you. Number 2, the essential element of intimacy is energy. It says, "For this reason a man will leave his father and mother," reprioritize, "and cleave unto his wife." Well, the word cleave is not a common word in the English language. You think of meat cleaver, and that's not a pretty picture, related to marriage. I mean, you might have come to your mind a few times when you were fighting, but the word cleave is the word dabak. In the Hebrew language, it means to climb a mountain. It's an energy word. 5 times in the book of Deuteronomy, we're commanded to cleave unto the Lord our God. That means you grab onto and pursue with all of your energy. Jesus said, "Seek and you'll find. Knock, the door will be open." There's an energy in pursuing a relationship with God, and there's an energy in pursuing a relationship with each other. In other words, marriage is work. And some people think, if I marry my perfect soulmate, I won't have to work at it. Well, that's just baloney. From the very beginning, God, and specifically, it's talking to men here. It says, "A man shall leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife." We work hard at the relationship. And honestly and truly, if you marry your perfect soulmate, you're going to have to work at the relationship. Some people believe, and I believe that this is just kind of a romantic misconception in our society that's perpetuated by the entertainment industry. Some people believe if you have to work at it, there's something wrong with your relationship. If you have to work at it, you have a normal marriage. You married a normal person. So it requires energy. The number 3 thing that it requires is sacrifice. It says, "They two shall become one flesh." The only way that 2 things can become one is the surrender of everything for the relationship. Jesus says, if any of you will not give up all of his own possessions, you can't be my disciple. In other words, if we're going to have oneness with Jesus, it means that we come to Jesus and bring everything into the relationship. So see, I marry you and I say, well, I'll give you everything except this. You're going to hate that thing I won't give you. That thing that I won't give you is going to keep us from being one. And it's a natural resentment we have for anything in our spouse's life that is not included in the relationship with us. So I'm willing to sacrifice. Jesus sacrificed to create a covenant with us, and we have to sacrifice to create a covenant with each other. And by the way, the word covenant means to cut. It means a sacrificial, permanent relationship. And any time that there was a covenant in the Bible, there was always blood. You get what you pay for in relationships. If you want an easy out, easy in, easy out relationship, that's not what covenant is. Covenant means till death do us part. I'm willing to sacrifice for this relationship. God cut Adam and took his rib out and created Eve and created marriage. He just as easily could have created Eve out of the dust. But he was saying something, and that is the nature of marriage is sacrifice. Number 4, essential element of marriage is trust. The man and his wife were both naked and were unashamed. They had no fear. The word ashamed there means to be put to shame. There was nothing in their relationship that kept them from being completely exposed to each other. Now understand, when sin came into the Garden of Eden, that all changed. When sin came into the garden, then they were ashamed. And they hid from God, and they hid from each other. And the beautiful intimacy that they had was out the window. And by the way, when God came to Adam and said, what is this that you've done? He said, she is the one who is responsible for this. And he blamed Eve, and then Eve blamed the devil. And it was just your basic nightmare. All the trust was gone from the relationship. So value, energy, sacrifice, and trust. We're going to use an acronym here. It's INVEST. We're going to talk about the 4 areas of intimacy, and we're going to use an acronym, INVEST. Intimacy necessitates value, energy, sacrifice, and trust. That's the word invest. If we're going to be intimate, it means we must have value, energy, sacrifice, and trust. Let's begin with spiritual intimacy, creating spiritual intimacy. A sense of unity and mutual commitment to God's purpose for our lives and marriage, and a respect for the special dreams of each other's hearts. It's really the closest, the greatest depth of intimacy we experience in marriage. Value. I value God's purpose for your life and the dreams of your heart. Now, marriage, a godly marriage is a win-win proposition. We both get there. As a man, I am called by God to nourish and cherish you as a wood my own body. Those are agricultural words. The word nourish means to feed to maturity, and the word cherish means to keep warm, like a plant. A husband's role in the marriage is to be God's partner to bring his wife to her full potential of what God created in her mother's womb to become. Chauvinism is just simply the belief that men are more special, men are more important. You're here for me. You take care of me and my life means something. That's not a godly marriage. A godly marriage is 2 people created in God's image with calls on their lives getting together, and we're a team to both get to our full potential in God, individually and together. I value the fact that you were created in your mother's womb to make a difference in this world, and I'm your dream maker, not your dream breaker.
Gain instant access to XO conferences and other dynamic marriage teachings with XO Now, the new on-demand video streaming subscription from XO and MarriageToday. For only $9 a month, you receive access to life-giving marriage series from Jimmy Evans, Dave and Ashley Willis, and other MarriageToday speakers. Access XO Now from all your favorite devices. Sync content for offline viewing and enjoy world-class marriage content wherever, whenever. Learn how to be married and stay married. A better marriage is possible with the right information and a mutual commitment to success. Even the most unhealthy relationships can be healed. As part of your subscription, you have full access to the complete sessions from the latest XO conference. Be the first to receive MarriageToday's best content with your subscription to XO Now. Start your free trial today at xomarriage.com/now.
Number 2, energy. I commit to pursuing God personally and together to find and fulfill God's call on my life, your life, and our marriage. Now, we teach people how to do a vision retreat. And we have a resource that helps people to have a vision retreat. And what we encourage people to do is go away for 3 or 4 or 5 days every year. Spend the mornings praying about your marriage, praying about your lives, your marriage, your children, your finances, every single area of your life. And it takes energy. And I'm talking about energy now, is spending the energy to pray together. Now, Karen and I pray together a lot. We've prayed together, thousands of times in our marriage, and we've had hundreds and hundreds of answered prayers. Let me say, you're either going to pray or you're going to worry. And spiritual intimacy, when you invite God into a circumstance, you're not going to fight about it. And when God comes through and does a miracle, it's going to be a bonding experience in your marriage. If you don't pray, you're going to fight. Philippians 4 says, don't be anxious for anything, but in everything, with prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace that passes comprehension will guard your heart and your mind. The word guard there is the word phureo in the Greek. It means a military guard. When you pray about everything, you're not anxious for anything. We're not going to let anxiety and stress into our marriage. The answer is prayer. The answer is to trust someone greater than us. Matthew 18 says, if 2 on earth would agree together as touching anything they would ask, it will be done for them. That means a man and a woman. A man and a woman holding hands, praying about their children, praying about their job, praying about the finances, praying about anything. You have the ability to shake heaven simply through your prayers. If 2 on earth. And the peace of God that passes all comprehension, you shouldn't have this much peace going through what you're going through. But the reason that you have this peace is rather than fighting about it or separating over it, you prayed and you invited God into that circumstance, and now the spiritual bond between you gets even closer. You pray, you work at praying. You make sure that you're worshiping together, you're praying together, you're seeking God. Number 3, I sacrifice the desire to only promote myself or to worry about myself. In other words, we're each other's. God looked at Adam by himself, and God said, it's not good that he's alone. You understand the devil never attacked Adam when he was by himself? And Adam was on the earth for a significant period of time by himself, because the Bible said he named every animal on earth before Eve was created. Let me tell you, that takes a while. I tried it once. They're still finding new species. And Adam named every species of animal on earth, and it says, and there was no one found comparable to him. And so God created woman. And then the devil attacked. The devil attacked because now Adam could get there. Eve was created to help Adam get there. Adam was created to help Eve get there. And both of us have to sacrifice our natural selfishness that we only care about ourselves. Number 4 is trust. I will create an atmosphere where you can share your deepest spiritual desires and dreams and know that they're honored by me, okay? That I'll respect that I'll be careful with this. Now, this is an interesting thing. Research proves that our deepest fights are on a dream level. That when we're having our worst fights, we're on a dream level. An example is a person who dreams of financial security, like Karen. Karen dreams of financial security, not in a bad way, not in a materialistic way. I was her dream breaker because I did not value the finances the way she did. I was her dream breaker. I didn't understand that. Housework, to have an orderly, peaceful life. Some people, their dream is just to have a nice home and a home that's well cared for, but their spouse is not respectful of that. So you're not just being a slob, you're attacking a dream that your spouse has. Children. To have children who are a priority and feel loved by their parents. Some people grew up without both parents. Some people grew up in a broken home or a home where there was high dysfunction. And their dream is to have an orderly home where the children are valued by their parents. Not too highly, because the marriage has to come first. But you're never here, you don't take care of the kids, blah, blah, blah. And so you're my dream breaker.
Since 1994, Marriage Today has used every medium at its disposal to strengthen families and marriages through its diverse ministry outreaches. Every day across North America and around the world, we provide help and hope through television, live events, social media, crisis coaching, and over 100 unique resources. There is a fierce battle being fought for marriage right now, but we can win it. We want to raise the standard. We want to unite families, restore marriages, and conquer divorce. At Marriage Today, we believe every marriage has a 100% chance of success if you do it God's way.
One of Karen's dreams is living without a lot of stress. Because of what I've done for many years in the ministry, we had a tremendous amount of stress in our home when our kids were growing up. My schedule, the church, and I was pastoring a large church, and Marriage Today started, and there was a lot of stress. And Karen reacted to that. And Karen's an extremely hard worker. I mean, she is a very, very diligent person. I can handle stress, but she can't. And I say I can handle it. I don't handle it as well as I say I do, but I can handle it better than she can. But what I realized was that one of Karen's dreams is for us to have manageable lives that are not too stressed out. And so what I've done over the years is I've made her my partner with my schedule. And before I put a lot of things on my schedule, I sit down and talk to Karen and say, is this okay? Is this okay? We talk about my schedule, 2 or 3 times a week. And she'll say, yeah, I'm fine. Her not having that stress on her that me being busy and us being busy creates, that's one of her dreams. I was her dream breaker, now I'm her dream maker, because I care about the fact that that's super important to her. A lot of the fights that we have, we just don't realize we're touching each other's dream. It's not just an emotional level. It's not just a mental level. It's a spiritual level. There's something deep within my heart that cries out for this, and you're my dream breaker. And if we're going to have intimacy in our relationship, we've got to be each other's dream maker and listen and work at that. Number 4, this is the last one, physical intimacy. Feeling as though your partner's body is your place of pleasure and delight. Closely sharing physical needs and desires and giving yourself to physically serve your spouse. I'm going to go through the little acronym here. Intimacy necessitates value. I care about your physical needs. Energy. I commit my physical energies to meeting your needs. Let me read you a scripture here, interesting. 1 Corinthians 7:4, okay? It says, when you get married, you don't have authority over your own body, but your spouse does. That's not a license for abuse, it's a license for use. What the Apostle Paul is saying, this is profound now. He says, when you get married, your spouse has authority over your body to get their needs met. It's not a license for abuse now. But it means it's not your body anymore. It's your spouse's body. That's how profound the Bible is when it says they too shall become one flesh. Now, when you withhold your body from your spouse, it's devastating to the relationship. If I use it as a weapon, if I use it as a bargaining chip, whatever it is, if I withhold my body from you, it's going to be devastating to the relationship. Now, when people hear, when spouses hear that their body belongs to your spouse, men think different than women. Women think different than men. Men think sex. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And women don't think that. Women think service. Oh boy, he has to take the trash out. He has to fetch and tote. Oh boy, I get to tell him anything to do. So women were asked, when is your husband most sexually attractive to you? And in their response, they almost always say, when he's doing housework. My husband is most attractive to me when he's doing housework. Okay. This is your place of pleasure and delight. The word Eden means pleasure and delight. God made marriage to be a place of pleasure and delight. This is your place of pleasure and delight. And it means 2 things, service and affection. I will serve you with my body. Karen and I's marriage, and Karen's a servant and so am I. We just serve each other all day. You know, marriage is about being together. It's not about living separate lives on different sides of the house. It's about doing things together. So I'll be emptying the trash, she'll be taking care, she'll be cooking a meal, I'll fold the clothes, I'll do this, I'll do that. But Karen, 100 times, a day, Karen will say, hey, Jimmy, will you do this? Or Jimmy, will you do this? And I'll say to Karen, hey, would you mind doing this? Yeah, great. Why? Because we serve each other. I'm giving you my body, and that means it's your body for the sake of getting your needs met, whether it's affection or whether it is, service. I will sacrifice other desires and personal comfort to meet your needs. I'll come home tired from work, and I'll walk in the door, and, Karen will, and rather than Karen saying, you poor baby, go over there and sit down, I'll take care of you, Karen will say, I need this, and this. And sometimes I'm just thinking, woman, I'm out, saving the world from sin, and you just need to, be careful how you treat the Lord's anointed. But I have to fold the clothes and take out the trash and do all that stuff, I will create an atmosphere where you can share any request of me physically and know that it will be honored and met. This is your body. This is your body. And if we're going to have intimacy, it means 4 levels: value, energy, sacrifice, and trust, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically.
Wow. Every time we hear Jimmy Evans, I learn something new.
Every single time. He is one of the most gifted marriage teachers on the planet. We've been learning from him for years, and now it's a privilege to be working with him in this work of building stronger marriages. But just like you watching him now, I'm sure you took a lot away from that, and we want to help you get even more access to Jimmy Evans' videos, because what you've just seen is actually just a portion of a full series from Jimmy Evans.
That's right. You can see the entire series, plus more marriage building videos on XO Now.
You can learn from the best experts, including, of course, Jimmy Evans, and get unlimited access for only $9 a month.
This is the best way to get immediate marriage help and encouragement from the full Marriage Today video library.
Yeah, and of course, all of our content is also included, along with brand new exclusive marriage building content you can't get anywhere else.
So don't miss out on the best marriage videos that are out there. Subscribe now at xonow.tv.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We are Dave and Ashley Willis with Marriage Today, continuing the conversation today on what really creates intimacy in marriage. And we've got some great questions from viewers. We want to share a few of those with you now.
That's right. Our first question says, my husband has been in a deep depression for the last few months. It's easy for me to feel frustrated because it feels like I am carrying the load of our family on my own. How can I support him in a way that shows that I truly care about him? This really hits close to home because we've walked through this. Years ago, I went through a depression, and I know that Dave can really relate to how it feels to have a spouse that's dealing with this.
Yeah, and really, this is a much deeper issue than we can fully get to in the time that we have. In fact, we did a whole podcast episode on this recently on our Naked Marriage podcast.
Yes.
We've written extensively about this in both books and blogs on MarriageToday.com. But the short answer of it is that you be there for each other. This is kind of a sickness and a health issue in marriage. And that depression is sort of like a sickness as it relates to the mind and the heart. And it can affect anybody. This is not your spouse's fault that they're going through this. What it is an opportunity for you to lean on God and lean on each other like never before. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have any perfect words because there aren't any. It's just a time for you to be there, to hold them, to cry with them, to pray with them, to encourage them, and to let your spouse know you're not going anywhere. You love them. And if you'll do those things, I think that you'll come out of this season, this difficult season, closer to God and closer to each other than you were ever before. I think, though, part of it is you can't just wait for the season to end. You have to be proactively working towards healing, and that means getting with a Christian counselor. That means proactively taking steps to do whatever it takes to help step out of that season of depression.
It's so true. I think really encouraging your spouse to get the help that they need and also affirming them and saying, I see hope. I see that you can get through this. This is not going to define you. This is not going to define our marriage. This is something we're going to grow through. We're going to grow from this, and God's going to use this to make us stronger and to help other people in the future. I think really clinging to hope is awesome, and it really helps. And I know during those moments when I was like, I don't have, anything to give right now, emotionally, spiritually, I am just kind of dry. Dave would really pour into me. He would pour into me with his words of encouragement. He would pour into me with scripture. He would pour into me with prayer. And I'm so thankful for those moments, because I think sometimes when our spouse, isn't strong enough to handle things at that moment, it is really the spouse's privilege to be there and to pick them up and to serve them in that way. And it's only through, God and through the help of your spouse in that moment that can really, help that situation. And I feel like when a spouse isn't there to really help their spouse in that moment when they are weak, it really prolongs the healing process. So I really commend you for being there for your husband while he is going through this. You are already on the road to recovery. And I know that God is going to heal your spouse, and he's going to be there with you every step of the way.
Man, that's great advice. We've got another important question about sex. And the question is this: my wife and I continually disagree on how often we should have sex. I want it more often, but she turns me down most of the time. This is very frustrating, and it makes me wonder if she is even still attracted to me. How can we fix this? This is such a difficult question, and it's a question I think most couples, so no, you're not alone. I think most couples face this at some point in their marriage, that usually one spouse has a higher drive. It's very often the man. It's not always the man.
Right.
And we get questions of, what do we do? Now, I think the best case scenario is that both of you are meeting each other's needs so much outside the bedroom that for whoever has that need for greater sexual frequency, the spouse with the lower drive would look at it as an opportunity to serve, just in the same way that the spouse who has a lower need for communication would be willing to talk whenever the other spouse wants to talk, even if he or she doesn't feel like talking. The Bible in 2 Corinthians talks about not denying one another. And I know that there are certain times where it's just impractical, or, one spouse is exhausted and you shouldn't feel like that you have to be on demand, ready to go anytime, day or night. But at the same time, I think that we need to look for opportunities to serve one another. And the more frequency, the better. I think if you'll try to get to the numerical frequency of the spouse who wants it more often, it's going to help your marriage rather than hurt it.
That's so true. We'd love to continue this conversation with you. So please join us at MarriageToday.com, and we'll see you next time.
This program is made possible by the generous support of our faithful partners.